Okay, welcome everybody. It's Thursday, June 27th, and this is the Lovonya members only call opened up to the Wellness Enterprise community. When I talked to Anne last week, I was so inspired by what she had to share. She's in her 70s and she managed a construction project last week, and she was feeling super well and having a lot of energy, which surprised even her. And we talked about what was behind that, and she wanted to share with you guys. She wanted to tell you the journey she's been on with autoimmune disease for like 40 years. And I might get my years a little bit wrong, but I'm pretty close. It's been a long time. And the things that have gotten in her way, things she's been allergic to, maybe things that she thought was going to be supportive, and then what's supporting her. I mean, I think this is such a valuable thing right now. So many people are tired and depleted. If we can get inspiration from somebody who's lived longer than we have and is feeling well, I think that's an amazing thing. So I'm sorry that Anne's not on video today. She's always, looking very professional for us, often wearing a lab coat, and really great speaker. And I'll ask you to just forgive that, and let's just dive into the quality of what she has to share. So Anne, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll just have to. I'll be your go-between with the community and questions, and just make room for me to interrupt every now and then to reflect to you what's going on in the Zoom room, but I'll keep an eye on it for you, and you can just get started. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks, Patrick. I appreciate it. So sorry about this, everybody. I don't know. I think it's at my end or else Zoom, because we've got construction and they're redoing electric lines in my area. I'm sitting up on a mountain, and they're trying to shore up the infrastructure a little bit better. So anyway, this isn't the first Zoom issue I've had today, but I'm glad we're here. And so I heard something on another call where nutrition was mentioned, and I thought, well, that's a good topic that I think we need to get a little bit more information on that. I think it's important that all of us understand that nutrition means a lot more than just eating in our current life and in our current society. And it also means a lot more than going to the local health food store and picking up a bottle of something. So I'm going to talk to you about my journey, because sometimes it's more interesting when you hear a case study. And unfortunately, the universe sent me into this body and said, you're going to be your own guinea pig a lot of the time. So I hope you don't get bored. But anyway, I think you probably know other holistic doctors that got into alternative health or natural health because they were sick, and the regular medical system could not find ways for them to get well. So even though they were an MD or a DO or something traditional, their own training didn't help them. And regular physicians do not get any training in nutrition. I think I've heard MDs that are friends of mine say they get exactly a half an hour of nutritional training, and the rest is provided by drug companies. And it doesn't fill the needs of the human body. So as Patter wrote up in the little blurb getting ready for today's session, I got sick a long time ago, but it had a lot of different complications, and some of you may really relate to the story I'm going to tell. I come from a really, really good stock. My maternal grandmother lived to be 103. My mother just died of pharmaceutical poisoning last year at 96, I think, and my father died of another pharmaceutical killing at 99. So even though they were being poisoned for the last period of their life, and I know that as a fact, but I had no control over what they chose for their body, they still lived a long time. So, we're used to being very active and very healthy. And the human body doesn't know how to be sick. A lot of people think, oh, my body's let me down. Oh, what's wrong with my body? Oh, and there's a lot of resentment towards the body and what's wrong with me. And I was really ignorant about my body because none of us are ushered human body 101 when we're born. And a lot of times we never get any insight unless we go searching on our own, or we have a crisis and it's up to us to help ourselves survive. So that kind of happened to me. I was eating a healthy diet back in my late 20s, early 30s. Not great, but I was doing a good job. I married a chiropractor, got him through chiropractic school, and as he would learn more about nutrition, he'd share it with me. And so I really had to clean up my act a lot and learn more about the good food to eat and food balancing and food combining and things like that. They didn't really teach a lot about supplementation per se in chiropractic school, but I learned an awful lot by going to seminars with him while he was in chiro school because I already had a PhD, so they let me in. So you got to remember that we all are born with a gut system that is looking for the microbiome to start nurturing, because the microbiome in our gut is what regulates our mood, it regulates our health in all areas, it runs the physiological systems of the body. And so a traditional vaginal birth provides the basis for the baby's microbiome. And more babies are being born C-section. And unless there is a special extra step taken in a very conscious hospital, that child might really be lacking a healthy microbiome because they don't pass through the mother's birth canal and vagina to pick up some of her microbiome to become part of the baby's microbiome. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're supplementing, when you're eating healthy, when you're putting anything into your body, you're not feeding yourself. You're feeding your gut microbes because it's their job to break down the whatever you put into your mouth, basically, and then to share those nutrients with you into your bloodstream. And so if you have a depleted microbiome from your birthday, then you've got a problem. And so a lot of children that have been born in the last 20, 30 years who have been born with C-sections and not so conscious doctors in charge have not been able to really digest well. And then they're put immediately on formulas and stuff like that, so they're not getting a lot from the mother's milk and the way that nature intended for the body to get the basic supplementation naturally before life went on any further. Okay, in addition to the way somebody's born, your genetics have something to do with how healthy you are and what kind of nutrition your body needs. And we all have variants. Some people call them mutations in our genes, but there is nothing wrong in nature. Everything is in part of a plan. So if you've got a gene that's different than the norm, it's probably not because of a mistake in nature. it has a lot of other things that could cause it to have a variant, which is a better terminology. For example, a lot of people say that those with dementia or Alzheimer's have a double APOE4 gene, and that gene is the culprit. Well, it can also cause macular degeneration. And if you have one rather than two of those genes, then you can still have problems down the road if you don't have a clean environment, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not allowing epigenetics, which is the management of your genes to support your health. So in a case of APOE4, the more they learn about the human genome, the more they're finding that back during the Ice Age, the Neanderthals, which, you know, most of us have some Neanderthal in us, but the Neanderthals were walking barefooted across icy and sharp, rocky soil, and they were, you know, if they got constantly cut and infections occurred, they'd all die, right? So nature created a variant, created an APOE4 instead of the 3, 2, or 1 to allow the bodies to heal themselves so they wouldn't die of infections from every little scrape or scratch. So every gene has a good point, but it also can have a weakness, and that's where epigenetics teaches you how to manage your genes. And that's also where nutrition is really important, to give it the good stuff and stay away from the bad stuff. Okay, our soil in on our planet right now has been depleted. Factory farming has been horrible to it. Pesticides, herbicides, even tilling kills the microbiome of the soil. Turning it over so it's in the sun, nothing's on it, and it burns out, and all the worms die. The mycelium dies, everything dies, and then you have a dust bowl, and that doesn't grow anything. And now we've got so many chemicals and such a buildup, and you know, so much. I won't even go into geoengineering and what that dumps on the soil. But then you look at our culture, and I would imagine most of the people listening to this call are from the Western culture or American. But the SAD is a sad situation when you look at our diet. It's the standard American diet, and it is not very nutritious if it's the typical SAD diet. It's got a lot of garbage on it, and it doesn't speak to all the nutrients that the body would really like to have to feed the microbiome. Okay, so you know, it's interesting. I said before, holistic doctors all probably, you know, went there because they had personal illnesses. My ex-husband fell off a ladder and hurt his back, and that's what led him to become a chiropractor. In my case, in my early 30s, I just lost all my energy. Kind of like a lot of people are doing today. I had no energy. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. I had fibromyalgia, so that I was so tired I wanted to sleep all the time, but my body hurt all over and I couldn't sleep. Then I started losing my memory, and you know, I couldn't think straight. I couldn't teach. I couldn't give seminars. It was really, really disgusting because I was so young and so vital, and I was in charge of so many things. I was running an institute, and you know, back then I was teaching a total of 20 colleges and universities and 4 MBA programs, and I was a real mover and shaker. And all of a sudden, I was laid low, and for a whole year, I could not work. I was no good to anybody. And so finally, you know, I yelled at God one day and said, listen, I came here with a mission. And if I can't do what I'm supposed to do to help people, then I'm out of here, because I feel like I'm going to die every day anyway, so it wouldn't take much. And within 2 days, I had all the answers to how to get well. And within 2 months of changing my diet and cleaning out some of the stuff that was causing my illness, I was a whole different person. So there are lots of reasons why I could have succumbed to chronic fatigue syndrome. It could have been a tick bite, because I was always outside. I know I had Epstein-Barr virus in my body, but most people do. But it stays dormant for most people. That's the notorious virus that supposedly causes mono and also chronic fatigue. I was eating a diet that had more carbs than it should have, and so I definitely had an imbalance in my microbiome, which included candida, which is a naturally found fungus that is in your body, and when it's in balance with everything else, it's a happy camper, and so are all the neighbors. But when it gets a chance, it takes over, and it pushes out the other good microbugs. And so back when I was diagnosed, doctors, and even still, doctors don't really pay too much attention to Candida albicans, and it will get into your organs and eventually into your brain, and it can kill you if you're out of balance, and that's diet related. So it's a very serious thing, and that's what I cleared up. Also, mold can cause all those symptoms I was having, and I was living in a rental house, and there was some mold there. It wasn't something that was, outlandish or that I even noticed, but looking back, that could have been part of it too. So basically, I've come a long way, and I have learned and continued to learn and continued to do research and study, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, as I realized in my energy medicine practice, I was attracting all kinds of people with autoimmune disorders. And I found that I was counseling people of all kinds of causes of autoimmune, because the autoimmune label means that your immune system is working overtime and it's killing some of your own cells by mistake. It's going after a foreign invader, but it's got your own cells that are dying in friendly fire kind of things in war. So it's real important that the immune system knows what it's going after and doesn't get confused because certain cells look like other cells. So a big part of me getting well was changing my diet. And it was around that time that I had been told that the reason I was starting to get arthritis in my thumbs, and I had been a flute player since I was 6 years old, so I used my fingers quite a bit, but I was getting really bad arthritis in my thumbs, and that was because I had a corn allergy. And that was a little bit before Monsanto took over. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I realized that one of the things that the body gets confused about is gluten. And gluten is something that's added to wheat. It's been hybridized so that your baked goods can be big and fluffy and taste wonderful. But it doesn't really add taste, but it adds texture. But the gluten is an extra add-on to wheat. So as I learned all this, I ended up giving up corn first because that was my main allergen. I found out later that not only, if you eat corn now and it's not organic, then you're eating glyphosate in your food, and that's corn and soybeans are two of the most highly poisoned Roundup ready crops that the United States sells all over the world and tries to poison everybody. But at the time, I was still allergic to corn, and I think it's because corn, like peanuts, creates mold on its stalks. And a lot of people are really, really super sensitive to the mold on corn or peanuts. Most of you have heard about the peanut allergies, but you haven't heard about the corn allergies because a lot of people don't even know about it. But that's the case in my case. So I said when I gave up corn, which, corn syrup, corn starch, corn itself, I love corn, but it sure doesn't love me. And I said, well, at least I don't have to give up gluten. But a few years later, I gave up gluten because I found out later when I got certified as an official gluten practitioner, because I needed to know the science to share with people like you, was that the gluten molecule is not only hard to break down, but it also resembles certain epithelial tissues in your gut. So people with celiac, oftentimes, they're all, today, most all of them are told to get off the gluten. I don't know if they understand why, but it's because the antigens in your body the antibodies in your body are going after the invader gluten molecules mistake, and then they hurt your own gut lining. And a celiac patient has no villi, which are the little tentacle things that stick out on the sides of your intestines and take in the nutrients as they're broken down by the gut bugs. So I'm giving you all this background because I want you to understand the rest of the story that I'm leading up to. It's all about nutrition. So I hope nobody's fallen asleep yet.
And I think you're doing great, and so many things that you're sharing are so familiar from my journey too. In fact, at the ripe old age of 54, I just discovered the Candida overbalance or overgrowth this year, and I've been working on that for 6 months daily to get that back into balance. But there are a lot of parts of your journey and my journey that are similar. Back to when you were talking about your mom pretty early on, you mentioned pharmaceutical poisoning, and we had somebody in the audience ask, what is that? So in addition to the nutrients, I think you're also talking about the toxins, right? They're both parts, nutrition and toxicity. So could you just address for a minute the particular type of toxicity that you refer to as pharmaceutical poisoning?
In her case, it was COVID vaccine poisoning. Classic case, every symptom you can think of.
Yeah, gotcha. Well,
there's a physician's assistant, which is the opposite kind of doctor or practitioner that I am, and she totally 100% agrees with me.
Gotcha. Well, it does seem like no matter where we turn, whether it's our food or our water or, all parts of life right now, there's toxicity coming in many directions. And I was listening to some doctors present yesterday, and they were laying out a 30-day challenge. And what they said was they're going to eat from their gardens for 30 days only, just what they can grow. And they invited anybody who practices traditional medicine to join them and eat only pharmaceuticals for the next 30 days. And we'll see how everybody's doing 30 days later. The point being, right, and then they said, they were joking. They didn't actually want anybody to put themselves through that. But the point being that there's what this abundant earth has given us. There's what's natural and clear, that it comes from nature, and then there's what man has adapted. And the natural food sure feels and looks like it's the big support for health and well-being. So thanks for addressing that. Please go on.
Okay, speaking, I was just out in my garden a little while ago, and getting rid of some of the stress I had when Zoom kicked me out of my client session earlier. But yes, I forget it. Was it Hippocrates that had the famous quote, "May food be thy medicine"?
It was. Yep.
Because that's what it's all about. And this year I started following a Dr. Nicole Apelian, who's a PhD, and she was stuck in a wheelchair with really bad MS and just was debilitated, so sick. And she said, I am going to find out what's wrong with me and I'm going to get well. And it was all about food. But she is a character. She was on that reality show called Alone. Now, I never saw that because I don't watch TV. But some of you may have seen that. And I think they're put out in the wilderness for like a month and they have to survive. And it is a reality show, so there are people around. I don't think they'd let them die. But she was eating all kinds of weird plants, and she's published a number of books on foraging and knowing what you're eating. And at one point, she cut herself really badly, and she knew exactly what plant to go to, which we call a weed, and it would stop the bleeding right away, keep it from being infected. So this year, I went out in my garden at the beginning of the season before I started planting. And this whole thing about CO2 and, it's the cow's fault and it's the human's fault and all this kind of stuff. When you look at the farming processes and what I just mentioned before about how our factory farming creates a dust bowl and it depletes the soil of everything. Well, holistic farmers will leave a ground crop that will then put nutrition back into the microbiome of the soil. So as it winters, there'll be a bright green living field that's not got crops in it, but it's got other things that some people would call weeds growing in it. And where the factory field would be just bare dirt, drying up and killing the microbiome. And so then in the spring, the organic farmer that cares about the earth won't go and rip and shred the earth by just turning it all over. They'll put one little tiny place where they'll drop a seed and then they push it back under. So they don't kill the microbiome, they don't kill the worms, they don't kill the little creatures that can help the things grow. And they have very abundant harvests and their crops grow great, where the other ones have to have fertilizer. And then it's all frankenfood. So yeah, you got a problem. So this year I went out and started looking at a forager's book that Dr. Nicole wrote, and I've been eating weeds in my greens. My greens include everything that comes up in my garden, and my ground is better. The worms are going crazy, and my garden is growing very well with the new things I'm consciously planting. So it's all a big balance of nature, and if you imbalance nature, then you don't win. And that's the problem with a lot of the pharmaceuticals. Like, for example, CBD oil, even if it's hemp and it's not made out of marijuana, but cannabis is a big thing that is very beneficial because all of our cells have cannabinoid receptors. And as soon as the medicinal value of cannabis was realized, the United States patented it so nobody could use it, and then created reefer madness and said, to kiss the law, you're going to get crazy, and don't get close to that plant. Well, now that they allow hemp with no THC or very little to be used nationwide, they're finding that a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are trying to create their own CBD oil, and they can mimic the molecule. They can put it together so it comes out chemically looking like cannabis. But the thing that it misses, because it's not natural and it's not a real food, is that it doesn't have the full spectrum. It's not really working with all the parts. They've just taken one aspect out of it. So when, for decades, the pharmaceutical industry has thought that if they, and this is even supplement companies that use laboratories to mimic and create molecules that look like what they find in nature. But when they find a plant and they test it and it really does well for this symptom or that disease or this condition, then they try to replicate the part that they think works. And they don't realize that it won't work alone. It has to work with the full plant, and that's the way the body accepts it and works with it. The body is perfect. The body knows how to balance. It knows how to use what's given to it. It doesn't know how to be sick. And so it shares its symptoms, and it wants you to learn its language. And if you don't learn its language, then typically we tend to want to mask a headache or mask whatever's showing up as a symptom, and then the body shows up with a different symptom.
And yeah, I'd like to jump in here with you for a second, because I had a part of my journey that was very similar to what you're talking about here, which was I started gardening when I found structured water in 2012, and I didn't understand what structured water was. And so I asked that it show me, because I didn't understand it. And so each season going forward, I got lessons from the garden. And about 3 seasons in, I started to have, I had this favorite food, which was that I would grow these sun gold cherry tomatoes. They're just fantastic. And it seemed like every year, the first one became ripe on July 10th. And I just looked forward to that day so much. And then I would eat tons and tons of tomatoes. And this particular year, the day I went to plant the tomato plants, it was really cold. It was like 45 degrees out in Boston. And I decided to protect my plants by digging much deeper holes into the ground and burying more of the plant. So July 10th came around and there were no ripe tomatoes, and the plants were not thriving at all. And I was wondering what was going on. And at the same time that was happening, there was this weed that was just taking over the entire garden, and I didn't know what it was. And so I finally decided to look it up, and the weed is purslane. You know that plant?
What was it?
Purslane?
Yes, I've been pulling it out all day. It's trying to take over my garden.
Well, let me share with you what happened. So I ended up driving into research to find out, what are tomatoes nutritionally? And that's when I learned that they're part of the nightshade family, and that nightshades could be contributing to inflammation in my body, and that might be part of the pain that I was experiencing. So I decided I was going to stop eating tomatoes, and I gave the tomatoes started, doing well enough, and I gave them all away. But then the really interesting thing was that I learned that purslane is a source of omega oils in plants. In fact, the most concentrated form. And as soon as I started picking the purslane and putting it into my salads every day, that's when it stopped taking over the garden and it became manageable. And so this balance and this out of balance characteristic in nature served to bring my attention to what causes inflammation and to what is nourishment. And now whenever I see purslane, I'm very excited because I'll just pick it right out of the ground and start eating it. And I love putting it in salads when I live in places where it's available. So the concept that you bring up of seeing ourselves as part of the whole and taking the wisdom that that whole is showing us and allowing it to guide and shape our behaviors, that's where I experience the miracles happen. And going forward to this year, I seem to be going through a lot of detoxification. When I discovered the candida overgrowth, I started treating that with different herbs, and I'm getting an enormous amount of things pushed out through my skin right now. The last few months has been really tough, and the way I'm interpreting it is that these parasites that I have and these overgrowths that I have, they've been there probably my whole life, since the origination of my microbiome in my early years. Like, I might not have been in the most balanced or healthy environment, and they were so overwhelming, and I didn't have enough energy or wattage or resourcefulness to meet that back in that time. But now that I'm doing so well in so many areas of my life, now I do have the energy and the wattage to meet those things. And so they're pushing their way out. And I'm actually experiencing the last 3 days a sty coming out through my eye, which is pretty annoying and frustrating. But I've known it was there the last 2 months or so, and I could feel it pushing its way up to the surface, and now it's actually coming through. So I just love this concept that you brought up and wanted to share, some of the experiences I've had that were very similar.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of us have had the same kinds of symptoms, but we don't know what's going on. And I'm constantly teaching people how to clear the resentment they have for their own bodies. And it's not their body's fault, it's the environment. So what I tell people is you really have to, follow all these steps to be healthy. And one is to clear the cause of your unhealth. And that's what you're doing right now. And you understand now that you've got the candida, you've got a sensitivity to the nightshades, but that doesn't mean you have to give them up if you can balance. So once you get rid of, let's say, just get rid of food that isn't organic, and like you said, in your garden, you're using structured water. So that is wonderful, because that allows the microbiome of the plants to grow better. And then when you eat it, it's transferring that to you, and every cell in your body appreciates the structured water. Okay, then after you clear the cause of your issue, then you detox, and there are different ways to do that. You're using herbs. I use the homeopathic to kill the candida. If you've got candida, you have to get rid of it quickly, because it fights back, and it's not a happy camper when you start trying to kill it off. It fights. So you really need to try to get it to go quickly. Then you need to just support the rebalance of your body by being on a good organic diet. And you want to feed and support that positive environment of your gut bugs, and make sure that you don't have any bad parasites, but that you are nurturing and adding to the microbiome, and eating prebiotic, like fermented foods, and knowing how the body detoxes and digests by combining the right foods, not putting something real heavy with a piece of melon or a fruit. You don't want protein and fruits together. You don't want, you've got to know how to balance and food combine.
Yeah, and Anne, I'm going to jump in here with one other point. So there's this concept that our inner worlds and our outer worlds mirror each other. And what I'm noticing as the wellness enterprise is maturing, and we're a dozen years into creation now, and we've stabilized. And with that stabilization as a company, my life has stabilized, and that has me able to think a lot more about our world outside of me rather than the world inside of me. And so what I'm seeing is that I'm still part of a world where monocropping is accepted, where the type of cover crops that you spoke on this call are uncommon and people don't understand, where people don't think holistically about the earth. And so what I'm finding is that the passion that's coming through this being is that, as much as I'm thankful for the opportunity to participate in the businesses with the Cosmic Tower and with the structured water, and those are really important to me, the new dream is how to have an impact on the world outside of myself to cause some of these big issues to change. And I think that's part of why I got directed by my life's path to come to Maui, because there's a finite border to Maui, right? It's an island, and it's a really lush, vibrant, growing land, and it's about as natural as any place I've been on Earth. I haven't been to the Amazon, but it's pretty extraordinary, and it produces a lot of food naturally. And there are these corporations that own huge pieces of the land that are they used to grow sugarcane there, and now they're growing oranges and lemons and limes. And nobody on Maui wants to eat any of that because they know the history of that land with the toxicity that was there, and the way the farming practices that are being used there are still poisoning that fruit. And so that fruit's being exported off of Maui because we don't want it here. And so there's a bunch of us that are gathering, and we're looking for the right structure for reformulating the way food is distributed in this world. And the basic concepts include, we're working on the first free restaurant. So not even donation based, just free. You just walk in and the bills are paid in a different way. So you just come in and eat. And we're also working on making available fresh produce, as well as some of the stuff that's packaged, but having it be organic and non-GMO, and gathering a marketplace of like-minded humans who are all sharing with one another organic, non-GMO food. And the idea is to pull us together in a marketplace such that we then have influence over the suppliers, and we can go to the producers of Maui and the people who want to have small businesses on Maui and tell them, if you'll grow natural food, if you will not poison your land, we'll buy all of it. Like, there's a marketplace for all of it. And we're moving toward, how do we simply allow the abundance of this earth to produce such that everybody's fed for free, and there isn't this tax on humanity like there are in so many domains of life right now, and everybody just gets to eat free. And somehow having that on an island that's so vibrant and abundant makes it seem feasible. And I wanted to share that dream because I think healing the internal world and the external world, they go together. We can't separate them. And this is the dream of what Lovonya was created to do. And while we haven't moved our business model forward in a way that's satisfying enough for me, like I always want more, this is what we're working on. And the energy that people don't see that's going on in Lovonya is this behind the scenes stuff on Maui, where we're working on food distribution for free. So I thought it was an important part of the conversation to bring in. And I know that's a little bit different than, where you typically focus in the body, but, where you bring this wholeness, I thought it was really important to get in there. Melinda just typed in the chat, I love this idea, Patter. Thanks for your encouragement. I really appreciate the chance to share this with you all. And Dr. N, the opportunity and this call that you're leading to get this in the conversation. So thanks for letting me make that point.
Thank you for sharing that. I just saw an article recently that it's not just Maui that's doing that. They're finding that a lot of supermarkets are not really vouching for the quality of what they're selling. So people are going directly to sustainable farms and buying directly from them and counting out all the middlemen. And
I love
yeah,
I love
that's
that.
the way we've got to do it until the people that are just in it for money realize our money's going elsewhere.
Yeah.
And in the case of Maui, not even playing with the money part. That's great.
Yeah, and sometimes I think we can feel disempowered, like, what am I going to do to change monocropping and factory farming and that kind of thing? And there's an answer that every one of us can take action. And the answer is buy organic, buy local, go to the farm stand, choose the farm stand and supporting that stand is there over convenience. And so there's a little market right up the road from me that endeavors to offer high quality products. And I went in there the other day and I've actually been using yogurt as a way to carry clove into the candida and feed the candida poison, which is clove, by giving them what they want to eat, which is sweet and dairy. And hang on one sec. Somebody who just came on is unmuted and somehow making noise. So iPhone Linda, your phone is making some noise. If you can mute yourself, I can't seem to get the controls on your phone. So forgive the interruption here, guys. For those that joined late, Dr. Ann was having technical difficulties, and so she's on audio only today. That's what we found to make the day work. So thank you for being here, and that's why we have so many cameras off and Dr. Ann's talking that way. So anyway, I was in this market and I noticed that this product that I wanted to buy, the expiration date had gone by a month. And rather than have the store not be able to sell it, I decided to buy it anyway, and I just take it home and see whether it served me or not. And if it didn't serve me, I'll just throw it away, because I'm so thankful that that business is there and trying to serve me, and that they don't have enough audience to make everything sell out. I want to encourage more audience to go there, and I want them to stay there. Like, I don't want that business to disappear. And so I share that with you all to share the level of empowerment that you have with your actions. And by making the choices to buy organic and support small businesses, that's how we vote. And that's how we take action. It's super important. All right, Ann.
Good.
Yeah, back.
I totally agree. So I'm gonna add a few more things. I'm coming up to the punchline here. So.
Great, please.
So, but I won't keep you all too long today. But I just wanted to say, the ingredients of what you eat are that's so important. But if you're going to supplement your diet, which is a good idea, unless you are growing your own food, your source, or it is just the best source and everything about how it's organic and blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, a typical diet, even if you go to a gourmet restaurant and it tastes really good, doesn't mean you're getting the nutrients, because you don't really know where that food came from. So it's a good idea to consider supplementing what your body is receiving, just to make sure that you have everything that you need. And, I'm not going to give you a nutrition lesson, because this could go on for a year, because there's so much to know about nutrition. But What I did want to say is over the years, I was, buying good brands from health food stores before I went back and got my naturopathic doctorate. And then I was ordering my own supplements because I could do that. And I was recommending to my clients and, trying to keep everybody healthy and balanced. And what I noticed was on some days that I was taking a supplement, I felt worse than on the days I didn't take it. And so I started going deeper into what was included in some of these supplements, and I was horrified because even the really good supplement companies were still using corn. We're not guaranteeing that things were non-GMO. I could hardly ever find all the ingredients in a supplement that were listed as organic. And some of the best, what I thought were the best companies, turns out were the ones that were extracting the molecular form of what was natural, but they weren't really serving the natural. They were giving, it was a pharmaceutical company making a supplement. And my body is so sensitive that it was reacting, and I was getting really weird, bad reactions to this, knowing that something in that supplement is bad. And interestingly enough, there's a naturopathic organization that I'm a member of, and the president of the organization owns a supplement company, and they're really well known, and they have all kinds of different combinations, blah 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 blah. But they still use corn in their formulation, and I'm not the only person on the planet that's sensitive to the mold on corn, and nobody should be eating corn that's not organic. So I've already, I've talked to this company and I've said, how can you do this? You know better. What's going on? And they're still doing it. So it's a lot of people are still really, really in the dark. So it's important when you're looking for a supplement to supplement your food. Hopefully you're using healthy food. You need to find a whole food supplement, something that is not just a lab duplication of a molecule coming from something natural. You need to look on your supplement ingredients and see that it's not, for example, magnesium known as, and some trade code name made by Merck or somebody, but instead it is actually taken from a whole group of different plants, and they're listed there. And you need to see that in order to trust that that's really what you're doing. So there are a couple of health food big chains that do their own supplements, and there are a couple of other whole food supplement companies out there, and unfortunately I left those down in my office and I came up to a different phone when I changed technology. I was going to show them to you on Zoom, but the one that I am finding is the best for me, and I do have a sensitive body and it's really well tuned and it looks for things that don't work right. The company's called Global Healing, and it's in Texas. And it's run by somebody that I've followed for many years, who is Dr. Edward Group. And I know that he's been real specific about how he treats the people in his formulation factory. I know that he goes and he looks only for the best of the food, and he guarantees that they're GMO free and they're vegan friendly and they're gluten free and no animal testing. And most of the things are also organic or from an organic source, if they're not certified organic. So I've been using his thing, and it hasn't been too long since he decided that a Cosmic Tower 220 in his factory to create a healthy environment, not only for his workers, but the healthy environment will impact all of the ingredients going into these supplements, and they'll also provide the whole factory with the ability to produce the structured water from all the water and the foods that come in with their own natural structured water. So that is what's told me.
Yeah, let me speak to that for a second. So back in December, I went back to the mainland, and one of the projects that I had was to go to Sedona, where our friend Susie, who was the steward of the Cosmic Tower 220 that was on loan from the Wellness Enterprise, because we thought that area was so important. There had to be one there, even if no customer was ready to buy it. Susie found out she was going to be moving. And so I told her I would come through Sedona and I would move her tower and we would see what happened. And Dr. Ed Group and I had been on one phone conversation a couple months earlier, and we'd been intending to talk more. And as I was driving into Sedona, I didn't know what was going to happen with that 220. I just knew I was moving it. And I ended up getting Ed Group on the phone that day, and he purchased the 220 for Global Healing's headquarters, which is in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so I got introduced to his team of people. They had already installed a whole house aqua energizer device on their water line in the manufacturing facility. So they really care. They play sound in their facility to create vibration. They're very well tuned. And so I ended up working with his team, and they were just amazing people. And within a couple of days, we organized it all, and I rented a pickup truck, and I took the tower from Sedona down to Scottsdale, and I got a full tour of that facility. And it's one of the most impressive groups of people and facility I've ever seen in my life. Like, they are so tuned to harmony there. And so they are now holding the space of a 220 with an 800-kilometer range from Scottsdale, Arizona. So I can just completely affirm to you from personal experience of being there how impressed I've been with Dr. Group and Global Healing. And your recommendation of their products is certainly something that I'm very much in favor of. Every time I listen to Dr. Group, I just learn more and more about the research that he's done and how he is piercing what's going on in our world and coming up with products that nurture the whole being. So I'm right with you on that.
So I need to add something here to the audience. I was involved with structured water long before I met Patrick or heard of the Wellness Enterprise. And I did not get introduced to Edward Group through Patrick. It was my own research over the years. I've been following him. And I bought 3 Cosmic Towers that have helped my health considerably, fighting back the damage of the EMF that poisons me and so many others. But I have a 220, and I bought it because I had a predecessor of what the Cosmic Towers are, also created by Harold, that I bought through him again before I met Patrick and knew anything about the Wellness Enterprise. So I am not a walking commercial for any of this, but we've come on different avenues to the same conclusions, and it all makes perfect sense. And I'm a walking result. I am healthy, where I think I was developing a brain tumor a year and a half ago. So, and I attribute that to having these towers here. So the structured water is great. The more you have an opportunity to read about and learn about structured water, if that can also support whole food supplementation, and he's got things that are just amazing for the brain, for detoxification, for multivitamins, you name it. And I think my first order was with the Global Healing was like for $1,200 or $1,300, just because I wanted to try it all. But it's just super good. And I've been putting off this construction project where I just built myself a little retreat center that's a yurt, and I couldn't find any contractors that would read the 55-page manual and figure out how to put this thing up, that had been shipped across the country from the state of Washington where it was fabricated. And I finally said, all right, I'll do it. And I sat down and I read the book and I read it and reread it until I understood every step. And I worked with a contractor and I told him what he was doing wrong and I told him what he needed to redo. And we worked together in harmony. And I couldn't have done that, 6 months ago even. I didn't want to do it then. So when you feed your microbiome, when you feed your body, it reacts. And it reacts well if you feed it the right stuff. And if you don't, you can't depend on just having a cosmic tower in your presence. That has helped my brain considerably. And I think it's definitely healed me, but I needed more. And this whole food supplementation has really, really helped. So that, I think, is about all I have to offer to you, unless you have some questions.
That's great. So you guys, if anybody would like to dialogue with Dr. Ann right now, you can just wave at me with your video on, or you can raise your hand using the Zoom function, or you can type a question in the chat and I'll be happy to ask it for you, whatever you guys would like. And it's up to you guys now. The call can continue to answer some questions if you guys have them. So does anybody want to jump into the dialogue? And I'm right with you. Like, I've been studying Dr. Group's products since I was there in December, and I have been on a number of other supplements this year. So I haven't placed my first order yet because I don't want to overwhelm my kitchen counter with supplements. But I think my first order is also going to be like over $1,000 because I want to try everything. And they just have so many really well researched and documented products, and I'm really excited about them. And for those that don't know about it, Dr. Group's part of a team of 4 doctors: Brian Artis, Ed Group, Henry Ely, and Jana Schmidt. And they are leading a conference called Healing for the Ages. It's in Dallas, September 12th, 13th, and 14th. And it's their 2nd annual one coming up this year. Tickets are on sale right now. And I'm going to be there in person. I'm actually going to be speaking with Dr. Ely about water. And so I'm really excited to be there. And I want to encourage those of you who are not yet following those doctors. They are talking about things that nobody else is talking about. They're talking about bioweapons and the types of things that are being intentionally cultivated in the human species right now. It's a really, really valuable dialogue. It's definitely happening at another level. We have a question in the chat, which is, will this be available as a recording? And the answer is yes. The Wellness Enterprise, when we have recordings like this, sends them out Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time in an email and sends the link. And this one will be this Friday's recording. So that'll be out by tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. Does anybody else want to unmute or ask a question? Rebecca's asking for our favorite products from Dr. Group. And do you have any that you're ready to put on that list?
Well, I have started because I have been taking all kinds of, handfuls of all kinds of supplements for years and years. What I take daily is the multivitamin, because it includes a whole lot of stuff. And magnesium is so important with all the EMFs around. The EMF basically cause all your cells to dump calcium into your bloodstream, and that can really wreak havoc with your body. It has to do with messing up the voltage in your cells. I mean, we're talking, we are electric bodies. You know, we have voltage in our bodies, and there are gated voltage. I'm messing it up because I'm not thinking about it correctly, but it's a calcium channel that is opened up to allow the calcium to flow freely, and it's not in a good way. It's too much, and then it depletes the magnesium. So all of us really need to be taking magnesium if you ever use a cell phone or any device, or you ever walk anywhere with a Wi-Fi. And not only will the magnesium help to cut down on the inflammation and protect you from the microwave radiation that we're getting hit by all around us, but it will also help your body to relax. It'll help your mood, it'll help your sleep, and it'll help the aches and pains in your body. So I like, he's got a magnesium and calcium combo, that's special formulation. I'm also looking at a lot of his detox things, and frankly, with the stuff and with the rabbit holes I go down on a regular basis, I need something for stress. So he's got some really good things for stress that I'm trying out too. So
That's great. I love all those things that are of interest to you. They're the same ones that are of interest to me. That sounds really great. Anybody else with excuse me, a question or a comment?
I've got one.
Was that you, Rick?
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael here. Yeah.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we got two at the same time. Michael, let's start with you. Rick, I'll come to you next.
Okay.
So
The question
I'd like to
was.
ask,
The
I'd like to
question.
ask Anne if she knows anything about shungite.
Time out. I'm going to say that again. Michael, we're going to start with you. Rick, I'll come to you next. 1 sec.
Michael
Okay.
here. The question was asked, which were the favorite different things from global healing, and I just wanted to add, I've been taking those products for a long time. I wanted to add, every body is different, so my favorites might be necessarily great for you. So in that, I want the person that asked which one are the favorites to know that global healing is accessible. You call them, you tell them what your few top items that you'd like to start eliminating are, and then they will make the proper suggestions for you without you doing any guesswork.
That's an awesome contribution. You know, it's really nice in this world to have companies that answer the phone and take care of people. It's been one of my missions in starting the wellness enterprise. We don't always succeed at answering the phone, but we always call people back and have a real dialogue with people. And I think it's one of the things that's missing in our world. So for you to presence that Global Healing is one of those companies, I think is a really big deal. And I really thank you for that contribution.
Agreed. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to shift to Rick now.
Okay, so this is going to be really quick, and I know Anne really has a specialty on the dealing with this cell phone, all this what do you want to call it? Irradiation, right? So my question is this: I'm not about dye, but somebody mentioned shungite. You can use shungite to mitigate this. Is that true?
And
Anne?
Some people can use shungite. I cannot, because it attracts it neutralizes it, but my body doesn't like that vibration.
See.
so, Rick, under the theory that we're all different,
Yeah.
the last time we opened a Lovonya members call to the whole group, it was with a homeopath out of the UK named Len Marlowe.
Right.
And I'm currently taking some homeopathics from him. And one of the ones that I take weekly rather than daily is actually shungite. And it's there specifically to help with radiation. And I feel that it is helping me. And so, I think the thing to do is to either develop a muscle testing protocol or whatever it is that has certainty for yourself, or to work with a practitioner, somebody like Dr. Ann or like Len Marlowe, somebody that can help you get to certainty, and then you make that choice. I have a big chunk of shungite in my home, and I'm taking it internally. So, we're all a little bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So Rebecca just asked, Dr. Ann, I'll direct this one to you. I don't know if you'll have any knowledge about this, but Dr. Artis is very much in favor of nicotine patches for long haul COVID or just in general. Do you have any experiences or knowledge about that?
Yes. I bought the wrong kind of patches, or else I'd be wearing them. But I really, as a practitioner, do not want to be shed on, because I want to stay healthy. And I don't think there's such a thing as long COVID. I think it's long vaccine. But I chew the gum, and it's the 2 milliliter gum, not the 4 milliliter gum. And because I have not ever smoked, it kind of makes me a little nauseous. So I cut one of those little chiclet things in half personally and chew that, and it just does wonders for me when I think I've been picking up some crud or starting to have some symptoms. I think the patches are great because Dr. Artis uses them, but you got to watch out when you buy the box of patches, because some of them are real strong or some of them are not so strong. And if I use the ones I bought, I might have to cut them into tiny pieces and just use a little tiny piece. And I think Dr. Artis puts them on his rib cage. So yes, they do work. It has to do, like I said, all our cells have cannabinoid receptors. They all have nicotinic receptors also. And if you follow Dr. Artis, you know the rest of the story. But they do tend to help with the detoxification of the, quote, spike protein, whatever that is.
Sounds great. Dr. Ann, I'm going to hold up a visual for our audience. So I've heard Dr. Artis on this topic too. And my best interpretation is that there's varying degrees of milligrams of this gum available. And I'm holding up the product right now that I ended up selecting. The brand name, if anybody's having a hard time seeing it, is Rugby, RUGBY. And this is their 2 milligram product. And I'm pretty sure, even given my distaste for Amazon, that I purchased this off of Amazon. It was a while ago, it was last year. And what I do with this is when I'm in the public a lot, when I'm around a lot of people, I'll chew some gum before and after. And that feels right to me. And my experience, I had some concern with trying something with nicotine, because I was addicted to nicotine myself about 30 years ago, and I didn't want to activate any of that energy in my life. And I don't remember the specifics of the dialogue, but I interacted through chat with one of these Healing for the Ages events, and I was satisfied with what they offered, that this would not be addictive for me. And my experience is that it was not addictive. Like it feels like a strong medicine. It feels like it's kind of sharp and tingling in my body, and it feels like it's effective. And then I'm getting another question here in the chat. So Lovonya members have an access to, the question is where to find Dr. It's Len, L-E-N, Marlowe, M-A-R-L-O-W. I don't think we're really going to find him online. He doesn't really have a big presence. If you can't find the video I'm going to direct you to, you can email support@thewellnessenterprise.com and just put in the subject line Len Marlowe link, and we'll get you his information. But the video that we had with Len Marlowe, I think if you go to YouTube and you look up Lovonya, L-O-V-O-N-Y, Lonya, Lovonya's YouTube channel, which you should see me in some of the thumbnails. There's about 60 or 70 videos. Actually, not in the public version, only in the private version. There's some videos on there. I'm in them. And the one with Len Marlowe is public. I don't have that link available right now, and I'm going to keep going, but you've got the backup of emailing us if you want to get more information on that. And by the way, guys, Dr. Ann is very much of service to the Lovonya community, and we really appreciate her. And one of the things that was shared earlier was by Mary, and she said that she's worked with Dr. Ann and is currently taking magnesium from an excellent source along with many natural supplements. And I think she's, pretty happy. That's why she's sharing with us that she's worked with Dr. Ann. And if anybody's inclined to work with any of the people that we bring forth through Lovonya, we do that because they're the people that we feel alignment with in what they're teaching and how their knowledge impacts life. And we're happy to give you their email address or point you out to their website. You can just email support@thewellnessenterprise.com, and we'll always take care of you and get you whatever information you need. All right, does anybody else have a question or comment? I think we're about the time we wrap up. And thanks for persevering through the technology stuff today. You did great. I think the sound really came through well for everybody, and people are typing thank you and thank you. This was wonderful in the chat, and I know you're not seeing that, so I want to tell you, but even more thank yous coming in. So just want you to know you touched people today, and that this was really really wonderful. We appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you. I appreciated being with you too, and I'm sorry I couldn't see all your smiling faces.
Well, next time we'll endeavor to be on video next month when you're back on Lovonya, and if we have to go audio again, we'll do it. So thank you everybody for being here. We appreciate you guys. And
thank you.
Oh, this was
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Really good.
Thank you, Anne.
Spot on. Thanks for sharing, Patter.
All right, bye-bye, everybody.